Welcome to Vacation Station, hosted by Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazines.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to Big Blend Radio's second Friday food, wine, and travel show with the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association. We call the association IFTWA, it's far easier, but every second Tuesday and every second Friday, Friday is really designated to travel writers that are members of the organization, and then Tuesday is representatives from the various destinations that are members, but either way, it's all about travel, and we love the shows because we learn about places we haven't been or that we have been. And today we're excited to welcome Jo Clark on the show. She's an award-winning photographer, a travel writer, blogger, and she is joining us to talk about the natural North Florida region. And Nancy and I have done some twirling around there quite a bit last year. In fact, it is probably one of our favorite places in this country. And as many of you know, we travel full time, but you can see manatees, you can see so much wildlife, and there's so much history. And so Jo knows all about that. I want to give out her website that you can follow her adventures, which we love this website. And so we feel like we should be drinking wine with her right now. HaveGlassWillTravel.com is her website. So you know we like her.
Yes.
Now, Florida does have wine, and this is surprising. She wrote an article about natural North Florida, and it's up on nationalparktraveling.com. You'll see it in our next issue of Parks and Travel magazine. She does include wine, and I'm like, okay, we can go kayaking, have wine. This is cool. But you go to her website, haveglasswilltravel.com, and for Florida, if you want to plan a journey, go to naturalnorthflorida.com. So welcome, Jo. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
No, we're doing good. So you're based out of South Carolina, another beautiful state. Really, you got, this is the thing. These are all places with alligators. So Nancy and
I know we love
alligators and wildlife. So and it's just laid back in a beautiful area. But for you, going to North Florida is not that far of a drive for you.
About 7-8 hours for most of the places that I go.
Okay, so then you're like, okay, make a trip out of it.
It's an all day. It's an all day adventure.
Right, cool. But it's pretty. It's pretty.
It is. It
now,
is.
I've got a.
And once I get there, I stay.
That's it. Do you ever drive from South Carolina through Okefenokee Swamp to get to North Carolina? I mean, not to North Florida.
No, I usually go down through, of course, through Charleston and towards Savannah and on down. The highway. I hit Gainesville and kind of turn right.
Okay, no, I know exactly the route. I know exactly the route you're talking about. Yeah, it is
the
far.
Beginning of the area.
Yeah, but it's so pretty. I encourage you at some point though to do the detour I'm talking about, because it's kind of connected the ecosystems. It's really neat. Okefenokee being so close, and some of the areas you've been to, it's like I'm excited. I could talk about this area all day long. What we didn't know is that this is a bunch of counties that came together. So the natural North Florida is like a whole, like everybody came together and really into the nature part of it, which is really nice.
Right. It's actually it's a 14 county task force that formed to get more publicity, to kind of pool their resources so that more people would learn about things to do in that area. And I said it in one of my articles. These are the counties that everybody is like hammer down trying to get to the Mouse Ears or to the Keys.
Right.
And I said, actually, you don't need to slow down as you're going through these counties. You need to stop.
I agree.
You're just in Florida.
Because this is all of an area that's not necessarily part of the Gulf Coast either. It's not,
right.
It's a different swampy. So like Wakula Springs, you've been there, right? Because I'm sure, I think I saw, was it on their website or yours?
Wakulla is one of the two. Yeah, Wakulla and Gilchrist are the two counties that I haven't visited yet out of the 14. They want me this spring. Everybody else I already have visited either in August or November and December, and have written about. So those two I'm sort of on hold right now for those. The rest of them, I think I've got 3 or 4 counties that actually touch the Gulf Coast. They're in the Big Bend area, because when I said I was doing the Big Blend radio show,
Yeah.
they got all excited and they said, I didn't know we had a radio show. And I said, you don't. I didn't say bend, I said blend.
Because we're a little
It's
bit
that
of
Southern accent.
we love the Southern accent. And so speaking of yours comes from West Virginia, right?
Virginia.
Oh, Virginia. Oh, I better get it right. Oh,
That's right. Yes, we don't take that lightly. But
Oh,
yes,
uh-oh.
I grew up in Virginia, born and educated in Virginia, and loved the beach. Moved down here 27 years ago. I was in the very southwest side of Virginia, Martinsville, if you know where that is.
Probably been through it.
If you're into NASCAR, you know where it is.
We drove through there. Leaving Pennsylvania. We were in Northeast Pennsylvania, and then we were driving, and it was one of the ways to go to kind of not get yourself messed up in DC. And then
you went around and came down 81 through Roanoke.
That's it.
Dropped onto
exactly.
220 and came through Martinsville and Greensboro.
Yes.
Yep.
And still got lost in Manassas somehow.
Oh, well, Manassas is Northern Virginia. We don't even count that.
Oh, well then, because we got lost, then we got down. Yeah, it was after that we got down. Okay, so now is Virginia considered the South?
Definitely.
West Virginia too? Yeah.
No.
Oh.
Well, that'll take care of that.
Ready? Because I'm very interested.
They took their 100 counties and left at the beginning of the Civil War.
This is why I wanted to ask you.
It was all one state, and that's how West Virginia got its start. They left us.
They left. They bailed. That's it. They wanted to be their own thing. But it's interesting about you too. Is not only I know you're a retired teacher, educator, computers. Woo. I would not want to be doing that now. It's like, here, just go to Google. It's all changed every day.
It
but
does
we all
change
have to
every
deal with
day.
that as travel writers, right? And bloggers. Everything is
right.
always changing. But
and that's what I had to teach my students. I taught middle school for 9 years and then taught high school. I had taught college before I taught middle school. That explained a lot. But one of the things I told the kids is you can't just get on the computer and look something up and take it as truth. I said, any fool with a modem can make a web page.
Yep.
And they were like, Miss Clark, you mean everything isn't true? No.
I mean, it's a tricky subject, because do you really want some government body or official, whatever, to come in and be like your critic, and you can't say this, you can't say that on free speech? On the other hand, information should be information.
It should at least be accurate.
Exactly. But we don't have computer police.
And well, Wikipedia has done in the beginning. It used to be don't trust what's going on in Wikipedia, but
because anybody could add to it.
Yeah, and I think now they've kind of regulated it a little bit better. But to me, that's the importance of travel writing, is you've actually been there. Here I am. I mean, we've got photos of you in the article paddle boarding. How was that, by the way? How is paddle boarding? What's it like?
It was fun. I was scared to try it, but the lake looked really, really smooth. And Paula, that I was with, said she would be right there with me. And she said, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. And she stayed right with me. And it didn't take me long on my knees to decide, that sucked. I had to get off my knees.
Yeah, that hurts.
That hurts.
That
Bad
hurts.
knees. So
you get bruises.
It didn't take long for me to, she got up and I thought, that didn't look that hard. I'm going to do it. And I got up my first try. My big fear was, if I fall in, I'm going to get drenched. my contacts will wash out of my eyes, and then what am I going to do? And I said, what are the possibilities that I'm going to fall off? And she said, oh, you're not going to fall. And I didn't. She was right. So
See?
it was fun.
That is
Good.
awesome. And that's the thing, the whole area. And I want to touch on the other thing I was going to with Virginia and West Virginia is that you've also written about the Civil War. So you have a heavy interest in that, written books, which is interesting too, because Florida and into Louisiana gets interesting as well. That whole, the whole region is, but there's history in these natural places that I find really fascinating. And I was wondering about that too. I know it's natural, but stuff went down.
Yep, there were a few battles fought in Florida, and there is a reenactment coming up in February, if it happens this year, in one of my counties. So I'm in hopes that happens and I can go.
I hope so too. It's so beautiful. You going paddleboarding, there's canoeing, there's kayaking. Maybe you get to see manatees or gators and all the
Already
bird life.
saw manatees.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
awesome.
I want to swim with them. I want to do that so badly.
I really want to go underwater with them.
Yeah, I do
just did
too.
that.
Yeah,
We
but
were kayaking, and
Mm.
there were 3 of us, and it happened to be a really cold spell the week before, and I think they started moving earlier than normal because this was November, and people were saying, oh, you're not going to see any. There was a pod of 8, so it was
Oh,
fabulous to see them in the water. It was my first time.
but I really want to go down in the water with them, but that second part of my brain goes, that's probably, maybe that's not nice for them, so yeah, I'm always in 2 minds about how close we can get, because I don't want to do something that disturbs them, but I also want to see them closer. It's just,
it's especially
yeah.
the boating. I've seen signs all over in your area that you're talking about in Northern Florida about watching what you do with your boats, and we've got to be really aware of them.
To troll and not use the motors so they don't get hurt by the propeller blades or
They're like the
things like
hippos
that.
of Florida.
They
Call them
are.
the
They
hippos.
are.
They
Well,
really remind us of hippos.
There's a dugong, which is a kind of the African version of a manatee, and they're a lot smaller, but there is an animal called a dugong that is very similar to the manatee. And we used to live in Africa, but I never got to see one of those. I still want to see a dugong.
So you have to go back.
I know.
Well, okay.
Maybe not right now.
Okay. Well, we saw manatee finally. Was it November? No. It's a blur. We've been all over. I think it was November. And it was out it wasn't St. Mark's. It was out near Titusville. It was it's one of my favorite parks, and it's northern Florida. I don't know if it's part of the county that you represent, but it's outside of Titusville, and it is there's Merritt Island National Wildlife Refuge. And they have an area where the boats dock and everything. You go over one of the drawbridges, and they have this little manatee viewing station, and lo and behold, there was a manatee.
Yeah.
But it was one, and we saw one. We're like, yay, we saw one the first time we went there, but we haven't hit it at the right season. But our friends just did, and in the area that you talk about, and they saw manatees and got to swim around and had a wonderful, wonderful time. But when you look at the geographic area, can you give us kind of an idea? So Gainesville is part of it, and you talk about Gainesville.
Starts at Gainesville pretty much and goes across to Wakulla, but it comes across and into the Panhandle a little ways. Then it comes down to Cedar Key and maybe a little beyond Cedar Key in Levy County.
Okay. And Perry is in there, that area? Yeah, it's got to be. I think so.
Town. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
the town of Perry. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
That's near Keaton Beach.
Okay. Yeah, because we stayed there And when we're doing Wakulla, I say Wakulla, but you are gonna love it. You go on the boat ride, whatever you
Mhm.
do. Are you gonna
Yeah.
stay at that historic inn there? It's part of the Park Service. It's actually a state
Hope so.
park. Cool. It's beautiful. It's
Mm.
just, you got to do the boat ride. It's amazing. You'll see
I always
everything.
head for the water. Wherever
Yeah.
I am, if there's a boat ride to be had, my hand is up first.
Let's
I'm
go.
ready.
Let's
Um,
go.
I love the beach. I love being on the boats, and you get a different view of everything, of the animals, of the town, of the coastline. Caught my first fish this last trip, and that was out of Keaton Beach. So that's where I knew where Perry was, because when I was staying in Taylor County and Steinhatchee, I went to Keaton Beach and went out with a boat captain, and so I caught sea trout and in the Gulf, and
Wow.
that was neat. I brought my fish back, and they cooked it for me that night in the kitchen at the hotel where I was staying.
So the springs, that's the thing. It's at 300 springs in this area? Is it 300
Probably
or
more
400?
than that. There's 1,000 springs in Florida.
Wow.
Amazing. A lot of them are small. A lot of them are on private land, but I think there's, I don't know, 30 or 40 just in one of my counties that I was just working on an article this week about them.
Wow. Wow. The
Wow.
one that we have in the
Hmm.
picture behind us is Pitt and Sullivan. Oh, I had it all written down, but we just
Beautiful.
came across it by accident. We're like, let's just pull over here, and then there's a little hike with the boardwalks. That's the other thing, is boardwalks.
I
You've
love the
you've done,
boardwalk.
and the Spanish moss and the boardwalks and the wetlands, birding. That's a big deal, and especially I know
Mhm.
winter, but even spring has got to be amazing.
Oh, I know. Spring has got to be gorgeous. I can't wait to go back in spring. I've been in the summer, I've been in the fall and winter now. And living on the coast like I do, and being a photographer, I'm always taking pictures of birds. Here I go to the state park, Huntington Beach State Park, and we have a causeway and boardwalks, and we have all these amazing shorebirds and
Nice.
wading birds and the birds of prey. We've got nesting eagles.
Cool.
We've got lots and lots of ospreys.
Oh, I saw that
So-
one photo of yours of the osprey. Is awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, I love the osprey.
I do too.
Oh man,
And it's
that's the
nice
thing.
when I go to Florida, I see a lot of the same birds. So people are saying, especially on the boat tours, they're more into the fish and the life in the water. And I'll say, "Oh, look at the cormorant," and they go,
Yeah.
"What's a cormorant?" It's like, well, it's that bird right there. So, I end up teaching on my boat trips. I end up teaching people about the birds, because the people that are running the tours, a lot of them don't know about the birds. And on my business card, I have an anhinga. That's probably my favorite bird.
Oh, they're awesome.
Yeah,
I
I love
anhingas.
they're what the
I
snake
love like
bird.
when they just hang out there with their wings out. They're like, I'm drying.
The water,
leave
they
me
call it the water
alone."
turkey, I think, and a snake bird because of the way
Snake
they
bird.
dive down. Yeah.
Snake bird, because they
We-
do.
Because they
go-
look like a snake in the water.
Yeah.
When you
Yeah.
see them just under the surface, you see that black head and neck
Yeah.
coming
Yep.
along.
I love them.
That's
We
cool.
saw, have you done the Ahinga Trail in the Everglades? Everglades National
No,
Park?
I haven't.
Oh, you gotta do
You
that.
got to do that.
Yeah.
You
but
like that.
I want to go, but the northern Florida though, it is pretty interesting because it's got all this history. And then it's like, here's the spring, and then here's the ocean, but then, hey, you've got forest. And we've been there in the fall and seen like a whole butterfly thing going on, and
Yeah.
it's beautiful weather. And it's like a different wildflower and butterfly season. We were there in the summer. I gotta see if we were there in the spring. I'm not sure. But I just want to go back. You say northern Florida, I'm like, let's go, because you can have all these different experiences, and it is about nature, and it seems that everyone's kind of working together to keep it that way.
Right.
But I just love that there's forest. Like, you
Well,
wouldn't think
there's-
about
it's such-
forest. you know?
It's such a long state. So it
Mhm.
goes through so many different terrains and
Yeah.
ecosystems that you could just stay forever
We love it.
in that state and see so much.
Mhm.
When you go to another state, they're like, some of them are just almost like a square, and they have some zones, but
They're all
you
the
don't.
same.
Yeah, yeah,
This
they kind of
Florida's
are
different. Yeah.
Yeah, Florida and California, but in Texas, because they got that length,
Mm.
they have so many different ecosystems that it takes time to really do a good job
It does.
to see it all.
One of the things too.
Even my little counties take a week.
Mhm.
You know, the first trip I was staying 1 or 2 nights in a place, and all I did was drive, because the county would be an hour or hour and a half wide and an hour and a half long. And I would be in one corner and have to be at the other corner at like 9:30 in the morning the next day. And I said, all I'm doing is driving. I'm going down the road, you know, steering, looking out the window going, ooh, ooh, but I want to stop there.
I
Yeah,
know that's
that's
why
how we
week.
are.
that's
Yeah, I
how
have
we
to
are.
have a
That's why
week
we're on the
anywhere.
world, like the you know, the on the road full time. You were talking about bicycle trails through there, which there really
Mhm.
are, and I love that you brought up that there's the old railroad beds, because there's that whole Rails to Trails program, which is awesome.
Gorgeous.
We were in Thomasville, Georgia, right outside Okefenokee. So we did that twice, and then we stayed in Thomasville. And a couple that we knew there said they're in their family. It's not that far. That's why I was thinking about this whole other side of how Georgia goes to northern Florida. That's this connection. They ride their bicycles. They do this. There's some bicycle trail that can go from Georgia all the way down, and they will drive it all the way to St. Mark's and Wakula. However
Wow.
it's so I'm like, this is cool to be able to be out in nature, and for kids to have that. It is also a really cool thing. But you said that there's wineries, and I know that Florida has wineries, and I've seen vineyards out kind of near Perry area or like south of Gainesville. And we still want to talk about Gainesville. Gainesville is awesome.
Yeah. Just outside of Gainesville, there are 2 wineries. There's one out at Cross Creek, and then there's one just really outside of Gainesville. There's Island Grove Winery, and there is Blue something.
Oh, I've seen that. I've seen signs for it. I've seen billboards when we're driving.
Both of them grow their own blueberries, because just like here, all the grapes we grow here in the Myrtle Beach area are muscadine, basically, which does not make that great a wine, in my opinion. I know people that love muscadine wine, and I've had some good muscadine wine, but it's not my thing. The blueberry is very good. Both places make excellent wines, but their forte is taking the blueberry juices and combining it maybe with Moscato or Merlot or some of these other wines. And there's a Gewürztraminer that they combine, and they have got some really tasty wines.
Wow. We need to do that next time, Nancy. I think we drove by and going, we got to stop. I know that feeling. Yeah, I want to stop. I want to stop the car. There's wine. We want to stop.
Oh, yeah. My car turns in at wine.
We all have that.
See,
it's great.
yes,
That's great.
yeah.
Yeah. But people just wouldn't think of Florida having wine. I mean, every state has it. I'm interested what Alaska does. If we've got Florida making wine, we've got to go to the polar opposite.
Then they're gonna
and Hawaii.
Gonna,
What's Hawaii doing?
They're gonna have ice wine in Alaska.
Maybe.
They're gonna have ice wine, which is a whole different experience.
There you go. Well, listen, we should have had wine together.
Yeah,
we should have.
We should have recorded this later in the day. Oh, but who cares about what time? Yeah, exactly. You know, so
5 o'clock somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. My brain has an international clock. It doesn't care. It just doesn't care.
Well, you know, my logo is the wine glasses, because I say it's have glass will travel, but glass is also the slang term for good, expensive camera lenses.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
See a nice lens on somebody's camera and you hear the term, "Ooh, you've got some good glass."
oh,
So it's
My,
kind of a
what good
dual
glass you've
thing.
got. Yeah. That's cool. That's
I have a glass in each hand.
It's
yeah,
so-
well, there you are.
It seems like you're writing. I
Balance.
mean, you've got the education background, and you send an article in, and I mean, there's no proof needing, or we
Yeah,
always
thank
proof
you.
everything. But I'm like, well, I got nothing to do with this now. Okay, we don't. No,
No,
thank
thank you
you.
for that.
thank you for that.
It's such a big
That's what
help.
I want to hear from my
I guess I'm like,
editors
this
is
is a
I
great
didn't have
article.
anything to do.
It's
Yeah.
personable, and it also gives you a really nice overview of why go and all these different experiences you can have, which was awesome. But your photography is amazing too. So
Mhm.
Thank you.
I know you've written the Civil War book, so having an educator background, you've got the attention to detail. But did you do the photography first? I mean, how did this all start for you?
Well, I've had a camera since I turned 6. I got a camera, a Brownie for my birthday
Oh,
when
right
I was
on.
6.
Cool.
So
Mhm.
I've always had cameras back in the film day. Took probably a 15-20 year in between taking pictures from the Minolta film days going into the first Kodak
Yeah.
digital,
Wow.
and kind of got back into photography that way. I was still shooting film when I moved here, and I actually went on a tour of a place down on the way to Charleston called Bull Island.
Mm.
And it was so fabulous. And there was this old, historic looking old farmhouse on the island. And I wanted to know more. And I called first I looked, in the card catalog. I did my research and couldn't find anything out about the island. So I called a regional magazine here at the beach, back then called PD Magazine, and asked what did they have. I wanted to read something about Bull Island. And they said, well, that's a really interesting place. We need an article about that. Do you want to do one?
There you go.
There you go.
I said, well, sure. And so I did the article and I said, I've got pictures. I'll send you some pictures to go with it. And they said, well, we'll send a professional photographer to take pictures to go with it for the magazine. And I said, well, I'll send you what I've got. So they used my pictures and said, never mind, these are fine.
Awesome.
Cool.
Awesome.
And that
Cool.
was 27 years ago.
Oh, so now you're off and running.
So yeah, kind of. I was off and on again. I was busy teaching. I was busy making a living and grading papers, and didn't really get back into the writing heavily. I wrote about. I worked for Builder Architect magazine, so I interviewed local builders and wrote articles about them and took pictures to go with the articles. But it just didn't click that I could turn this into a real calling doing the travel writing until I guess about 5-6 years ago. And I started working toward it and building my following on Instagram. I'm Jogos everywhere. And I say, well, I haven't been everywhere yet, but I tried.
But yeah, exactly. The get is my favorite word.
Mhm.
It is, because it eventually we'll get everywhere we can, but it's yet. I haven't been there
Yes.
yet. But because it's going to happen.
But it's on the list.
It's on the list. Just keep going through the list. Just keep going,
Mhm.
So now you do the blogging for Natural North Florida and write about that region, which is really, we're a little jealous. I mean, that would be very cool to live near, but 8 hours for us is nothing. It just is, all right, we're going for a day drive. It's just going to take 8
It's
hours.
just a day.
It's a
Yeah.
beautiful,
Long
thing,
day.
but honestly, you're so nearby to be able to keep going back there and still have that outsider perspective, which is important when you're covering a region. It's interesting as travel writers. Sometimes, we all work with visitor bureaus and CBBs and, the DMOs and everything. And a lot of times people will forget what they have. They're used to it. And then we'll show them something. They're like, I didn't even think that was of interest to people. Have you had that happen with you and you're traveling?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'll get a list of the things that people want to show me, and they want to make sure I see these things in their county. And again, I'm hanging out the car window going, but what about that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, we go
So
through that
I need a day
too.
of my own so that I can go
Yeah.
out and catch up
Do
all the things that I've seen.
Yeah,
Oh.
because it's people have specific interests, which is great, but so that's what they talk about. So somebody who's into all the foodie destinations leaves out nature a lot of times, history a lot of times.
Yep.
So, because nobody's really going to be an expert in all of it.
Mm-mm.
But I try.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yet.
Because
So
I'm
do we.
interested in all
Yeah.
of
See,
it.
but this
yeah,
is it.
so
I think your next website name should be called, but wait, but stop.
But wait,
What's that?
Mhm. Yeah,
stop,
just because,
yeah.
and we know that it's all connected. So
Mhm.
our thing, we was like, you can't leave any of it out,
Mm.
which is
True.
why we started as the blend, because we just put everything together.
you just blend it all together.
Yeah, just
all
put it all
connected.
in. Yeah, because
Perfect.
it's all connected.
It's like
It
at the
is,
end of the day, if you've been out paddle boarding, you deserve some wine,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and so I know readers
And
want to
some
know
good
about where to
music.
stay and Gainesville, when you're in Gainesville, speaking of that, the B&Bs out there, we were in Gainesville last year.
Beautiful.
Was it last year, the year before?
I
Who
don't know.
knows? But we stayed at Magnolia Plantation, and
Uh-huh.
they were one of the first B&Bs, and they called
Mm.
their friends and said, come on, we've got to revitalize this neighborhood and family. And I think I think we're all staying in the same neighborhood at B&Bs. As where were you
Mm.
staying? Because it looks beautiful, those Victorian
Yeah, the
inns.
Victorian homes, they're just
Mm.
gorgeous in
I
Gainesville.
love it.
Oh
yeah.
my gosh. And this one had these gardens that they just, oh my
Mm.
gosh, the gardens. We haven't talked about gardens yet.
Yeah, we have, there's
Oh.
gardens out, yeah, the
Mm.
Kanapaha Gardens in
Mm.
Gainesville.
I was hoping you would say that.
You were baiting me for that one.
I was just like
Mm.
hoping she's gonna say it.
Kanapaha.
Kanapaha, Kanahapa.
Kanapaha.
Yeah, so two
I was
major
gonna go
gardens.
And
more
Cedar
Hawaiian.
Key Woods or Cedar Lakes Woods and Gardens. I have actually written two articles just about that garden for two different places, and they want me to work on a small book that they can now sell in their gift shop. So,
Awesome.
Very cool.
yeah,
Awesome.
that's an exciting project I'm going to start working on in February.
Oh
Cool.
wow. Oh wow. This is
Cool.
exciting.
But it's an old garden.
Ooh, I
Well,
like
not
those.
an old garden. It's a limestone quarry,
Mm.
and a doctor from Oklahoma bought the place. He was actually teaching in UF and was in that area at the dental school, and he found this place. And I think of the Night Before Christmas poem, and I can just see him with visions dancing in his head of his own fishing hole. He was going to fill this thing up and stock it and have his own big lake, and sort of started doing the landscaping. And the more he worked, the more it turned into a botanical garden, and it is fabulous.
I want to
And
go.
Come on, I'll meet you there.
Okay.
Cool. That'd be fun.
We'll bring the
Christmas-
wine.
We'll bring wine.
Yeah, you bring wine. He'll be happy. Yep. Dr.
Yeah.
Weber is still there. He lives on the property. And I don't
Wow.
blame him. If I lived there, if I owned it, I would never leave.
Right.
Yeah.
And he decorates it for Christmas. Oh my heavens. You'll have to look at that article with the pictures from Christmas with the lights.
Oh.
It's just, he
We have
goes
to go.
crazy.
The other thing too, you talked about there being a prairie reserve with a prairie, and that's
With
something.
wild buffalo and wild horses.
Mm.
See, now we didn't know that you had wild horses in Buffalo. Like we've gone to see the wild horses and covered them in the West, and
Well, we have them on, of course, the islands off of North Carolina
right.
and Virginia, but
Mhm.
and I didn't know there were any in Florida, and there they were.
no way.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
saw 'em on
amazing.
my very first trip.
Wow, that's incredible. And then you did Convict Springs. Nancy and I drove by, and we're like, we need to go do the
Yeah.
Convict
I
Springs.
love
And
Convict
I
Springs.
think one of the places we went to right near there, and maybe it was Convict Springs, flooded. So you couldn't go, and so we couldn't
Yeah.
do anything. You know, we went and
They
did a little
looked-
walk. Yeah.
They looked out one day, I guess it was last July, maybe, was when they had so much rain and was flooded so much. They looked, and I know the people that own the place, they have camping, primitive tent camping on up to a lodge. So you can stay in any section that you want to stay in. And I've stayed out there 2 different times now, but they looked out the back window and realized somebody had come up the river, because it's right on the river. They'd come up the river and turned in, and they were out there in the middle of Convict Springs in a motorboat. Well, Convict Springs, you know, they've got a concrete walkway around it. They have the handrails and steps that lead down. All that boat needed to do was, you know, catch it just right, and that motor would have hit the handrail. And yeah, so they had to go running out there and say, cut the engine, get out. You know, this
What are you
is not
doing?
some pond.
Right. Yeah.
That's
Because
funny.
we were at a state park,
Hmm.
and the park ranger came. And what's cool is you can buy your state park pass on your phone. It was so cool. So, you know, because you know how many times we pay cash and you don't get a receipt that you really, you know, as travel writers, and we should photograph them or whatever. But
Right.
Yeah.
it comes to your email. So for your tax records and all of that, it's like just saying it was so
Really
convenient
handy. Yeah.
to be
Mhm.
able to purchase it. And the park ranger came. I'm like, no, we paid. Look, I swear. And she's like, oh, well, you can't really go in to the spring. And, you know, and we went and looked, and I was going to try and get what I could photo wise, but the water was really black. And she was explaining like that happens. But it had this kind of trippy feel. Like,
Weird
there
feeling.
is a swampy, mystical,
It is.
It's got ghosts.
you know, there's like, I don't want to say
It's
voodoo
ghosts.
magic, you know, but there is
No,
that,
there's ghosts.
there's this it's like Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, all the way across have that
It's got ghosts.
swampy stuff, you know. There's just like another
Stuff
whisper in the
happens.
back. I
Yep,
can't
yep.
explain
You know,
it,
Got
something's
ghosts.
gone on and you don't know what.
but I want to
Yeah.
know. I want to know, you know.
Because it's just got that, you know, stuff could happen.
You just feel it. It just,
Yeah, you could.
I dig
so
it.
you know that
You know
stuff-
things could happen there and nobody would ever be the wiser.
exactly.
The alligators know.
So-
They've been there for years.
Oh, they know.
They saw.
That's why they
maybe
come to
did
the
it.
surface. They look and they just blink and go. Here comes another one.
Don't you love them? Seeing them, I love seeing them.
Oh yeah,
They're so
awesome.
beautiful, and they're pretty chilled out sometimes, you know, depending on what's going on. When you see them actually hunt and eat and catch something, that's a whole
That's a
other
different.
deal.
Yeah, that thrashing and rolling, boy, you
Mm.
don't have to see that but once to think, yeah, I don't need
Yeah,
to
I
be
don't
in
want to
that
put my
water.
finger there. Don't be.
No.
Yeah, we saw one crunch down on a turtle. Oh my
Oh.
gosh, it was intense, and he was
Oh,
just like
just a turtle.
crunch,
Mhm.
crunch,
I
crunch.
saw one get a full-size swan one time.
What?
Mm.
Yeah, came up from
Oh.
behind and got the swan on the back
Oh.
end, and the
Oh.
swan was still trying to fly and get away.
Oh my gosh,
Mm-mm. Well, you know, swans are pretty hefty.
they're
and
pretty. They'll nail you
They
too.
can break your arm.
Yep.
With their
Nancy saved a
wings.
swan in England.
Yeah.
When
Oh boy.
we were at a
and
zoo
that
or something.
hurt.
The
That hurt.
swan got its neck stuck under.
They had these metal
thi-
hoops under
yeah.
the water, and the swan put its neck through the hoop
Uh-huh.
and was trying to back out, and you know, it was trying to go up instead of back out, and I could
Right.
see it. So I went to help it, and it really pretty much beat me up with its wings, but I did manage to save it. But it, you know,
And then afterwards
He
turns
wasn't a
around
bit
at Nancy.
grateful.
it
was
wasn't
he?
it wasn't exactly a
"Run!
thank you. You know, it was,
Run,
stop it,
run,
stop it."
Forrest, run.
It's like, oh, and then so you get it out, and then it's like attacks. I'm like, oh.
No,
So you stand, you run. You know, it's like, I'm like, okay, I probably might not do that again, but I would. just to save it because it's a beautiful bird, and that was a man-made thing that harmed the bird. And I don't even, maybe it was for people
it's a
hooking a
Probably would
boat.
cover over the drainage or something.
Or no,
Yeah,
I
it's
think
gonna
it's
be something.
maybe for people to hook their little rowboats to or something, but it's just this big iron hoop under the water, and we're only talking about 3-4 feet of water.
Yeah.
So the
But you
swan
can
went
drown
under.
in low water if you are
Well, especially if a
getting up to
swan's
get air, you know.
beating you up with its
Mhm.
wings. It was fun. I'd do it again, but
Well,
that was
that's
a
the thing
lot.
about going out in nature. You see
Yeah.
things that you just, there's a different, it's great to see Animal Planet and all the planet
Mm.
Earth and everything, but to be out and witness, when you see like an osprey with a snake in its mouth or another fish or, you know,
Yeah.
there's
Mhm.
something just so wild about it and how nature works.
Yeah.
And when you're out there, the birds, like you're talking about the woodpeckers, oh my gosh, the woodpeckers.
Mm.
I love
They're
the
amazing.
woodpeckers, you know,
Yeah.
so it's awesome. It's been so much fun having
Yeah.
you on the show. We just want to
Well,
go to
it's been
Florida.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I want to go.
we'll have to plan our trips to coincide.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah. I want to do it. I want to go back.
Sure.
Just anytime I'll go. I'll go. We love it out there.
If it's swampy, we're in.
Yeah. There's gators and birds and wine and gardens. Look at this. Historic highways. Just
Mhm.
your article just has, I love that you've done this because it really, like you're saying,
It's a
stop.
good showcase.
Yeah, it's an area that, you've got the interstate going right across and people don't realize until they take a scenic route. And
Mm-mm.
we were pet sitting for a lady, I think she was in St. Petersburg and she was going to Destin. And I said to her, do the detour, go this other way. She goes, once I just did that and I didn't understand that we were green. And I'm like, oh, you're green. She was like, I couldn't believe there was forest, because she's beach, and she
Yeah.
said she was absolutely like, what? And I was telling her, "You go here, do this, do that. And
Yeah.
it just blew her mind, And I think for
We'll
now,
have that vision of Florida.
yeah, it's a
Mhm.
whole different side that people,
It's sand and palm trees. That's Florida.
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
but that's
and I'm like,
so-
oh no.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, we
There's
lived
a
in
lot more
Arizona and
to it.
everybody thought everything was a Gumby cactus.
Yeah.
There's waterfalls and snow and, depending on where you go. So it is, I love it when, writers like you go out and do the off the beaten path. And this is not far from the beaten path.
That's true.
That's
Yeah.
the beauty of it as well. You really can spend some time
You
out
can
there
have it all.
Yeah.
and be distanced from people because we're all still watching that. So that's the other thing about being out
Mhm.
there is having some fresh air and some distance and
And be
good
safe.
stuff. Being part of the International Food Wine Travel Writers Association before we go, how was that, being connected with them during when the pandemic started? Did that help you kind of stay like, sane a little bit by having other, conversations with travel writers or?
Sure, it did. And it's helped that we do remote wine tastings. So we get together and do wine tastings. They ship bottles to each one that signs up for that particular group. And we'll sit and have our wine and talk about the wine.
Cool.
And we'll have the winemaker on and they'll tell us how they made it and, what made
Cool.
it taste this way or that way, how it's different. So that's been a pretty neat
Cool.
thing. But doing the travel writing and traveling and being outside and doing things, I pretty much kept going even in the height of the pandemic. I drove from here to California and back and made an 8-week road trip out of that. So
Mhm.
Yeah, you sound like
Yeah.
us. Yeah, we
the nice thing about it was the lines were short and some of the like you go to the state parks and the inside things would be closed.
Right.
So people didn't go because they thought, well, the park's closed. Well, no, only the exhibit inside the building was
Right.
closed. The park was
Mhm.
open.
Yeah.
So
And most of the
yeah.
information that's on the inside, you can get online anyway.
that's true.
Yep. And that's how we survived during the pandemic. I mean, we've probably done over 500 parks.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've been doing this for a while, but during the pandemic, we did more parks than we've ever done. And more, I mean, just in the wildlife refuges are really cool too, because you can take a drive because we
Mhm.
always have
Oh,
a
yeah.
full car, unfortunately, but that's our gear and you can't just leave it. And
True.
but the wildlife refuges turned out to be really a cool way to take a little drive, and I encourage people to go to them. You know, if you can't spend a lot of time, sometimes those are places where you can just do a wildlife drive, and lo and behold, you'll see stuff. I mean,
You'll
it's
see
there.
something.
You know,
Absolutely.
you've got
There's
some
a-
neat refuges out in your area too.
I really have seen some great ones. There's one in particular talking about the pandemic that made me think about the ones with the tigers, where I don't know if I had that in that article or not, a picture of me kissing the tiger, but they have lions and tigers and panthers, and they limit how many people can come through on a tour anyway, to not stress the animals. You know, you've been to zoos where it's like the tiger's just pacing back and forth
Yeah, it's
and
horrible.
rubbing his head against the cage. These are like playing and purring and huffing at you, and huffing is a good thing. But they got lethargic and depressed during COVID because they closed and they weren't bringing people through during COVID. So the keepers had to put on their dress khaki uniforms and drag their husband and kids and lead them through on tours because the big cats were depressed because nobody was
Used to
coming
their
to see
routine.
them.
They're used to a routine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, well, they were used to people coming and oohing and eyeing, and you know, they were bored and depressed. They
That's
didn't have any
interesting.
company.
Well, at least they have some space to roam. That's important. That's important. We
It
went
is.
to a wildlife sanctuary, and I think it is the top wildlife sanctuary in the world. Honestly, it's in Colorado. The wildlife sanctuary, wild animal sanctuary. They've got space where it's an actual like hundreds of thousands of acres that they've saved, where animals are actually 100% free. That they've
Right.
managed to do, and they take the leftover stock, the horrible stuff of what zoos do, and they rescue animals that are from circuses around the world, and they rescue from animals in hurricanes, and so there's all kinds of things that they've done. But they did a boardwalk, so they're out in Weld County, Colorado, up in the northeast, and they did it so that you're walking on a boardwalk, so you
Above.
can see the animals. But it's like, you know, when you see something in the sky, like an airplane, not necessarily a bird, it doesn't really
Right.
threaten you. So we're not threatening the animals at all. And so
Right.
you're looking down. So no, you don't get great photos, but they give you ones that you need as writers. But these animals are so happy. You can see bears frolicking, bears that were addicted to cigarettes from being in a circus. They had
Yeah,
to wean
right.
them off of cigarettes. I mean, things like that.
Wow.
But I thought it
Yeah.
was the coolest thing that there was this educational part, but we weren't disturbing them. We were
Right.
walking over them, and so they didn't feel any kind of threat,
So-
which
That
was
and
that's
they-
really cool.
awesome.
And
Awesome.
their environment was totally natural to, if they had been in their proper homes, it would be like that.
It's cool.
And there was really no contact with humans so that they could actually be wild animals.
Mhm.
So it's well done. It's a
It's
place to go
amazing.
and see.
If you go to
Yeah.
Colorado, let us know. I'll hook you up there because you got to
Definitely.
go. You'll dig it. You'll like it. You'll love the nature part of them. But thanks again. And everyone,
Thank you.
it's been a real pleasure. And now we all want to go to Florida. So
Yeah.
everyone, get your glasses on. Now get your glasses, your drinking glasses, and your lens ready. Follow Jo at her website, haveglasswithtravel.com. And also plan your Florida adventure. Go to naturalnorthflorida.com. Again, Jo's article's up on nationalparktraveling.com, so you can check it out there. And, you know, speaking of that site being a national park site, this is also very close to the Gulf Shores National Seashore, and close to Cape Canaveral National Seashore, so close to national park units. So definitely want to include this in in your travels to these big areas. If you're going to the Panhandle, like Pensacola and Destin, this area, you need to go. You got to go. You got to do it. It's so beautiful. So naturalnorthflorida.com is the website. And of course, keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. And again, our shows with the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association are every second Tuesday and second Friday. So you can keep up with them at ifwtwa.org. Thank you.